All right. Well, if you're wondering what I am doing here, you know this is the right spot. You are seeing a biker on your screen, so I apologize. Uh, I represent an organization called Guardians of Children. As I was introduced, my name is Tex. I'm the president for the San Antonio chapter. So let's begin. And if I could get everything to work, that'd be great. So who are we? So why is a biker standing on your screen? And we're about to have a nice conversation about what we do and why I'm here. So Guardians of the Children is a 501c3. We're a nonprofit motorcycle organization. We're not a club. We're not a riding club or any of that. We're just a motorcycle organization. That's really all we are. And we classify as a charity under GuideStar and the IRS regulations. So we've been in operation for about 15 years now. We just celebrated 15 years back in February. So we're entering into hopefully our 16th year, which we know will be an amazing year, especially with COVID, some of the restrictions releasing. This is going to make our job a little easier. We have 48 established chapters all across the United States, and we're in 19 different states throughout the country. And currently we have 7 international chapters, which is all up in Canada. So why do we exist? Why does an organization like mine that I'm a part of exist? Well, we exist because we want to recognize and react to these signs of child abuse. And we want to educate other people to do the same. We believe education is a key fundamental in trying to curb the epidemic of child abuse and get more voices for the children who are silent or who are not getting the voice spoken for them, the outcries that they need. We've taken this approach from, I told Ellie earlier, I'm probably the most unqualified person here. I don't have any training, any certification. I attend every opportunity I can to teach myself, our organization. We teach our organization, our members, but we're just people. We're just people that care about making a difference here. So we want to provide strength and stability to these families that are in crisis mode, because that's what abuse is. It's pure crisis mode. And we want to answer the call of an abused child or teen for courage to move forward. Oftentimes, that's probably the biggest hindrance that we see in child abuse cases as we go through them, is children don't feel courageous after abuse. After they face their abuse, it seems to, there's no bravery. And so we try and find a way to get them to feel brave, to feel courageous. And we do that by providing support through the process and protection when necessary. I always like to say that part very specifically because we're not a vigilante group. We about once a month get somebody calling us and telling us about, so-and-so that we need to go beat up and deal with, and we're not that. We are a pro-victim organization, meaning we are there for the kids and only the kids. We're not going after anybody. We're not that type of biker. We're just there to help kids feel like they can be kids again. So let's talk about what the basis of organization sits on. So Edmund Burke, one of the great philosophers, and I love this statement from him. He said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is good men to do nothing." We've translated Edmund Burke's quote into kind of our own way of saying it. Don't let your silence drown out their cries. Now, that's a broad spectrum thing, and we do that in a number of ways. We do that in a variety of outreach ways where we try and get out in the public and just try and give people simple things that they can do to make a difference. We started about 4 years ago what we called a See Something, Do Something campaign. And it kind of looks like this. We started handing out little business cards with the front just has a simple graphic like this. It says, you see something, do something. Because what we had is we had people calling us, telling us about child abuse, and what are we going to do? We're bikers. We're not the law. We're not the police. And we'd always ask them, well, what'd you do? Well, I called you. Wrong answer. And we quickly realized that people didn't know what to do. People have no clue when they suspect child abuse, what steps to take, what actions to begin with. They think, telling their neighbor, posting it on Facebook, calling a biker group is going to solve that child's problems. But the truth is, none of that's going to solve it. I absolutely deplore and hate the videos that circulate Facebook of children being abused with the statement, "Help us find this perpetrator. Share the video." How does sharing a video find somebody? No, you need to get in the hands of law enforcement and let the investigators find it. It doesn't belong on Facebook. On the back of our card that we hand out, it has 8 things that we believe are simple things that we can advise to. Now, this is, of course, tailored for San Antonio because this is where I operate out of. But, of course, this can apply all across the spectrum for most of it. 1, call 911. You think a kid's being abused? Call 911. Say something. Try and stop or interrupt the abuse, or ask the child, hey, are you okay? I can't tell you how many kids that I've just looked and given that honest look of, hey, are you doing all right today? And sometimes kids will tell you a straight lie. They'll tell you, yeah, I'm fine, because they don't know you're a stranger. But when a kid believes you care, and some of you care workers know this, if you ask that child, hey, are you okay? And you can recognize it. You can stop the abuse. You can intervene to create a situation where that abuse does not continue. If you're available and you're able to, take photos, videos, and notes in detail. I can't tell you how many times this has driven me nuts. I ask people, well, did you write down the license plate? Did you get a make and model of the vehicle? Well, it's a green 4-door. That's great. There's like 100,000 green 4-doors within a 5-mile radius of here. You can also go to Texas Abuse Hotline and report it via the 1-800 number, or they also have a website right there. You can see it, texasabusehotline.org, where you can fill out the form and inform it. And then we give Child Safe's reference, because they are an amazing resource down in San Antonio and Bexar County for anything related to child abuse. They are a one-stop shop for kids who go through trauma, and we love them to death. So I know a lot of people have talked about the facts. I'm going to briefly go through them. I don't want to overwhelm y'all with all the facts we've gotten. On average, the reported cases is 1 in 10 children experience child abuse by the time they're 18. Now, currently, we took this into kind of and I kind of want to know, how did we get 1 in 10? So I did a little digging, and again, I'm a biker, so forgive me. But in Texas, we have about 7.4 million kids on the census data. Of the confirmed cases of child abuse is about 650,000 over the past 10 years. So that boils down to about 1 in 10 kids. Unconfirmed cases over the past 10 years, by the way, is $2.1 million. And the difference between a confirmed case of child abuse and unconfirmed is confirmed means they had enough evidence to support the allegation of child abuse. Unconfirmed means they only suspected it, but they didn't have enough evidence. Now, what I don't like is physical and sexual abuse for children is higher than for adults. The average is 190 per 100,000 kids, compared to 35 per 100,000 adults. And in the US, a report of child abuse is made every 10 seconds. In Texas alone, over the past 10 years, we've had a little over 2.750 thousand outcries in 10 years. That boils down to about 7,500 a day. In Bexar County, we average about 23,000 per year of confirmed and unconfirmed cases. The past 5-year average, it went down by 1,000 because of 2020's decrease in numbers. But over the 10-year, the 23,000 has remained pretty consistent. What that boils down to is about 63 kids per day are confirmed cases of abuse. 63 in the state of Texas and in Bexar County. Now, in the time that this presentation, my presentation will end and this seminar will end, 11 kids will be victims of child abuse, and that will be a confirmed case. But what would a presentation be without talking about COVID? Everyone's favorite subject. So one thing that COVID showed us with the stats that were released by the DFPS and at the turn of the year was child abuse stats went down. The number of cases reported went drastically down. It was down about 10% in all cases and was at an all-time 10-year low. And everyone said, hoorah, this is amazing. And for those of us that are in this industry and in this advocacy field, we know this is, there's more to this story. So let's talk about COVID briefly. Stressors of the pandemic were, in Texas alone, was a 12% unemployment rate. It was the greatest job loss since record keeping started in 1990 in Texas. That equated to about 500,000 jobs lost. The Federal Reserve of Dallas actually said that it was the steepest and fastest drop in Texas economic activity in modern history. Lack of oversight. On average, 60% of the kids are missing from school because they're doing at-home school, because they're doing remote, they're doing digital. This new form of education that we've adopted out of a protocol idea of being safe and keeping health guidance, which is a great thing to do, by the way. But that means over 60% of the kids are missing from the children's faces. And the teachers are the frontline workers. The teachers are the ones who make the difference. The daycare workers are the ones who make the difference, because you guys are the ones who see them every day. You guys are the ones who make the phone calls. In the poorest districts, that number rises to 87%. 87% in the poorest districts of Texas, the children are all remote and not in school, which means the teachers are not getting to see these kids for 8 hours a day. They're seeing them for short 1-hour Zoom sessions that are limited. Now, there's 251 reasons that this stat of child abuse going down is a total lie. 251. It is the highest rate of loss that Texas has had in 10 years. The highest next was 2010. We just, in that 10-year average, we're the highest. But if you go back 15 years, we are the second highest year of loss for kids. 55% of the 251 kids were too young for school or daycare. What does that mean? And why do I say that? That means people like me, people that are not the daycare workers, are not the childcare workers. When you go home, your neighbors, the public is the one who needs to be keeping an eye just as much as the daycare workers. 45% of the kids are in daycare that passed away last year of that 251, but 55% of them were too young to even be in school, daycare. That means we've got to do a better job as a society. We have got to do better. There should be no reason we have 251 kids. None. And you know what? I gave a prayer the other day with talking with Carrie Wilcoxon, and I said I was actually glad it wasn't 252 because that means somebody spoke up and prevented 252. And what's really sad about this is 52 cases of these cases, the child or the perp had no prior history with CPS. Over half of them, CPS didn't even have them on their radar. And in almost all of the cases, in all cases of abuse, the parents are the most common perpetrator. This idea of stranger danger is a thing of the past. This idea that we need to alert our kids and tell them you need to watch out for strangers. No, we as a society need to be watching out for the people that we know, because those are the people who take advantage and groom our children, and those are the people that hurt our kids, and those are the people we need to question. Stranger danger accounts for less than 15% of abuse. So we're going to stop right here and we're going to take a poll. Did we get the poll, Ellie? There we go.
All right, everyone, go ahead and answer. If you haven't started crying, I'm hoping, get your tissues now. We have 3 questions here, and here come the answers now. Just so you know, no one else will be able to tell if you are answering yes or no to these questions. Yeah, so it's just going to show us the number of people out of those attending today. It will not show us any names or emails. It will pop up on the screen, okay? So when those numbers are rolling in, I'm going to give everybody about 10 more seconds. Okay, ready? And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so here are our results, Tex.
Wow. Wow. On average, the average adult in a 1 in 10 survey, 60% of adults identify as having been abused by the time they're 18 years old. That's adults. I said a minute ago that the average number was 1 in 10 kids, right? But that's only those that come forward. That's only those that get a voice. 60% of adults in a national survey identified as being either a victim of emotional neglect abuse, physical abuse, or sexual abuse. The actual statistical numbers varies around 30% identify as emotional or neglect abuse, 20% say physical abuse, and 10% say sexual abuse. If 60%, 6 out of 10 of adults say, I've been abused, and we only have reported cases for 1 in 10, there are 5 kids no one spoke up for that are now adults that were victims of child abuse in one form or another. And this is where our organization believes that we need to be the voice, not just we as in Guardians of the Children, we as in the public need to do a better job of asking the questions, of making a report when we believe child abuse. And let's talk about that for a minute. Oh, I can get back to there we go. So reporting child abuse in Texas under the Texas Family Penal Code Section 261. Texas law requires you to report if you suspect child abuse or neglect. If you suspect. The number one thing a CPS caseworker will tell you that they hear when they start asking questions on a case and they're interviewing the family and friends and telling them, yeah, little Joey had this happen. We're just asking if you, trying to find out more information about what occurred. The number one thing they hear from the family and friends, I thought something was happening. I thought something was happening, but I didn't want to report it. Why? Texas Penal Code says you have to. Even if you're wrong, guess what? You're wrong. But I'd rather be wrong than not report, and I would have been right. So failure to report suspected child abuse or neglect is an actual criminal offense in the state of Texas. And if you're wrong, you're protected by law when you make a report or provide good information in good faith during a CPS investigation. What this means is you just can't call on your ex-baby mama, baby daddy and say, oh, he's beating him just because you want to be spiteful because he did whatever to you. If you genuinely suspect it, and guys, parents, you know what these signs are. Daycare workers, you know what these signs are. It's the basic stuff. We as parents have a gut feeling. I've got 4 kids, and I knew when every one of my kids' friends, there was something off about them that day when they were going through something. Thankfully, it was never child abuse. It was always something else related to, drama. I've got 2 girls, so 2 teenage. Yeah, I mean, it's nonstop what they deal with girls. I can't imagine. But when something's off. When it's when you see that kid at the bus stop wearing the same clothes for 3 days in a row, when they look like they've been rolled up in a ball underneath his bed and he's still wearing the same pair of jeans, when the kid that got straight A's or was bubbly personality suddenly is very moody, dark, quiet, reserved. When something's off with these kids that you see, that you interact with. You can spot a parent and a child. You can see when a child is afraid very easily when a parent scolds them in public. Most abuse does not happen in public. It happens behind closed doors. But the fear in that child's eyes lives in the moment in the public, and you know what it looks like. But 5 kids out of 10, no one's going to speak up for because they don't want to be wrong. I will be wrong every time. I will call the police on everybody from 10 buck 2. It does not matter. I will call the police and say, I think something's going on. And I'll be wrong every time because one time I've been right. And that one time made up for all of it. Now, as I said, you're not protected if you report your own abuse or intentionally file a police report. But there's some additional legal guidelines to 261 that I think we need to be aware of, especially since if you're in the daycare working or the professional field of caring for children. Professionals, you're required to report no later than the 48th hour after first suspecting child abuse or neglect. That means if on Monday you suspect that kid that came back from the weekend has some bruising or some unexplained injuries or something just doesn't appear right and you think something's going on at home based on his demeanor or what he talks about at home, about maybe he mentioned something that seems off the cuff or out of the ordinary for his language, you have till Wednesday to report it. You have 48 hours. And you cannot delegate this responsibility. This seems odd, but what happens most of the time is somebody will go to their manager and say, hey, something's off with little Johnny. Can you make a phone call? No, you can't do that. You have to be the one that makes that phone call. And it's also advised you not wait until all the facts are gathered if you suspect abuse. Chances are you're not going to gather all the facts, and you don't want to be the person investigating that. One thing we tell people all the time whenever we talk about this is if a child starts talking to you, don't ask leading questions. Defense attorneys love to use that. They will ask, what questions did you ask them? And if you ask a leading question like, did daddy do this to you? Defense attorneys can say, oh, you were subjectively questioning him and leading him to the answer you want. Delaying your report can result in more serious harm to the child. Ask open-ended questions if a child starts disclosing. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Do you feel like you need to tell me more? Don't ask them a question that has an answer already tied behind it. And last but not least, report even in doubt. Report in doubt. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. You're protected if you made it in good faith. I once saw a guy in a Target parking lot screaming at his kid as he's walking out, and I watched them get in the truck, and it looked like the dad was punching him from inside the truck. And I sat there and I looked at him, and he saw me. He didn't like that I saw him and I made eye contact. So he pulled up next to me and asked if I had a problem. And I said, is your kid all right? And he said, why don't you ask him? And I said, you just tell me. Is he all right? He goes, why don't you ask him? I said, no, I'm good. I'm not going to put myself in a confrontational situation with a stranger I don't know in a situation where I can't be observant of my surroundings. So he finally left, and as he left, I took his license plate down, and I made a quick phone call. The police met him at his house. They beat him home. You can make that difference. You just got to be observant. So to help file a report, a couple of helpful tips from us. You got to help locate the child. You got to give some facts on vehicle, address, names, anything that can help the police and the investigators actually find this child. The less information you give is the less information they have to work with. The more information you give, the better. And it seems like common sense, but most of the time people just get caught in that moment and they forget. Get something that identifies the child or can help the police find the child. Report what you know about the child. Hair color, clothes, approximate age, height, even rough guesstimates. You know, if you think they're 6 and they turn out to be 8, it's totally okay, as long as they know what kind of age range they're looking for. And report what you know about the event. Be very specific. Tell the police, this is what I saw and it led me to believe this. And you, if you truly believe, and I really hope you do, that there's a risk of abuse occurring here, then you need to, some of the key words you say are, I believe the child is in danger. That is what triggers quicker responses, unfortunately, that sometimes we've had to use, because sometimes if it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, it gets put on a back burner, and other priorities take place with the police phone call. So I believe our children's welfare should be the number 1 priority. So I will say every time, I believe a child is in danger. And call 911. Don't call us. Don't call, the neighborhood gossip. Don't go to Facebook. Don't, call 911. Call the police non-emergency line, but make a phone call that's going to get the kid help, not just keep talking about it. And then there's the Texas DFPS, Texas Abuse Hotline as well. You can call. So what happens after abuse? This is where I like to talk about, because this is all about me. This is a little vain about our organization and what we do, but I think it's kind of important because we're just normal people. We're just bikers. We're not daycare workers. We're not licensed professionals. We're just bikers that want to make a difference. So what do guardians do with these kids that we work with? How do we work with them? And of course, the biggest question we always get is, why motorcycles? Well, I'll tell you why. They're fun. Just simply put, motorcycles are genuinely fun. They instill a feeling of family for these kids and for the people that we work with. When you ride a bike with your brothers, and I'm actually up here in Midland right now. We came up here with 12 of my brothers and sisters on our bikes. I'm helping a sister chapter up here raise funds and raise awareness up in Midland. And so it's a family environment. I travel Texas with these guys, and I love what I do. And while we're up here, I've got my other brothers and sisters back in San Antonio. We're working on a room transformation for a kid. We're supporting a couple friends of ours whose kids are in situations. We're always busy, but it's our family. I truly believe that this is not just a hobby for us. This is an advocacy work. This is a passion that we have of doing something that is meaningful with our motorcycles and the gifts that we've been given by God. And of course, for kids, it's an appeal factor. Every gas station I ever go to, if there's a child, they look at us and they smile. Every kid loves a motorcycle, loves the sound of it. I met a kid at a gas station in Garden City, Texas on the way up here that 2 years old, and he saw my bike and he was staring from his car seat and just oohing and on. And so I took some bouncy balls and trying to be COVID friendly here. I was bouncing them up in the air kind of towards the car, and he was just giggling and laughing. Kids love motorcycles. But there's a fourth factor that I think is really fun. Method acting. And I'll get more into this in a minute, but I want you to remember method acting is a key element of getting a kid to feel like they don't have to be a victim of abuse, that they can be a victor of abuse. So one of the first things we do with a kid is we do what's called an adoption. When we meet these kids after they want to get involved in an organization and we determine, their case information and we know what we're working with, we conduct what we call an adoption. It's really more or less an induction ceremony. We bring the kids in and we make them a part of our family. We give them, the biggest, baddest guys in the yard. Hollywood's done a great job of making me, the biker, look like I'm just the scary criminal that's going to do the worst possible things to you if you look at me wrong. Well, when I was being a kid and I was getting beat up in the schoolyard, I made friends with the kid, with the bigger guy that was bigger than the bully. So now if the bully came to pick on me, he had to deal with my bigger friend because he had my back. Kids do the same thing intuitively with us. They gravitate to us because then they feel safe. They know they've got the big dogs in the yard that are going to protect them, and we're not going to let anything happen to them. And so we do this adoption ceremony where we bring them into a part of our family, and we do this with one particular item that is very, very powerful, and that's the vest. So every biker you know has a vest. We've all got a motorcycle vest that we wear that identifies who we are, what organization we with, motorcycle club, whatever, our name. We've got various patches all over. So with the kids, it's no different. We give them a vest that makes them a biker. And this is the cool part. They get their own road name. So my birth name is not Tex, but that's what everyone knows me as now. My mother still calls me by my given name. She just won't change. It's okay though. I'm working on her. I've been working on her for 38 years now. But we give them a vest and we make them a biker. And this is what's really cool. When these kids put this vest on, they become a different person. It's no longer Johnny, the kid that was hurt by his stepdad. It's Doomslayer, the kid that's got bad biker friends. We've got one kid named Slugger, and he's made friends with one of our particular members talking about video games. And he went to school telling his teachers and his friends, I've got a new friend, new best friend. He's older than me. He rides motorcycles, and he's going to come over and play video games, see my puppy. Well, the teacher was a little concerned because student, young, and he's about 7-year-old with an adult friend riding motorcycles. So she was like, I'm going to call mom. So she called mom and told mom, and mom laughed and told him all about us and why we're involved in his life. And the teacher was, oh, that makes total sense. But that's how powerful it is. He now looks at us as we're his best friend. And that's all we try to model with them is the appropriate adult relationship with a child, because that was violated. So we give them this vest and the method acting takes over. The minute they put that vest on, they become the biker. They become the tough guy in the yard, and they're no longer scared. They're no longer intimidated. One of my favorite stories to kind of highlight this is we had a court case, and we were escorting him. In all of our court cases, we escort the kids through the court system. We form a circle around them so none of the perpetrators can approach them. None of the perpetrator's family can say anything to them. We fully shield them because that's unfortunately what happens. Kids go to court and the perpetrators, because they're not guilty yet, or the perpetrator's family tells them horrible things or tries to trip them up. And it's just a truly horrible thing that what people can do. So we protect them. This kid was so brave. He looked at us and looks at our president at the time and he goes, I don't want y'all walking in a circle around me. He said, okay, well, how do you want us to walk? And he said, I want to walk in front and I want you walking behind me. And that's how he walked into the courtroom. Like he knew what he was there to do and he wasn't scared one bit. You have to forgive my language, but one of our most recent cases that we had when we went to sentencing, our child got to give the impact statement. And the first words out of the impact statement, and I'm going to leave you with that teaser because I just realized I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Sorry. Hold on to that thought and remember that.
You're killing me, Tex.
I knew that'd get you, Ellie. So after we give them the vest, we do one of our favorite parts. We do the ride. This is where we tell a kid, and after they get the vest, they get glasses, they get their helmet, they get bandana, they get little gifts from us just to remind them of us. We tell them, well, it's not official until you go on a motorcycle ride. You can't be a biker without being on a motorcycle. So we take them on a ride, and these are 3 actual pictures from our own LGs going on rides. One of my favorites is, well, they're all my favorites, but the middle one, she was scared like nobody's business of getting on that bike. And so we said, well, how about just a short ride around the parking lot? And didn't pressure her, but we said, what if we just do a really slow, short ride around the parking lot? Would that be all right, just to see if you like it? And she agreed, so we started doing these little short rides. This picture is taken on the last ride around the parking lot that we did because she wanted to do a 3rd and 4th one after the first one. And when we did this, my historian happened to capture this picture where she was riding. Feeling free. Sorry. Damn. Oh. The one on the left up top, that is 3 sisters that were riding together. And we happened to catch the moment where the bikes pulled up next to each other. And we always try and get the siblings where they can see each other in the moment. Even if we're at a stop sign, if we can just, because we want that there's power in them seeing each other happy and free. And so we got them next to each other. And that's what we captured. Just that fist bump of, we got this. And then the top one on the right, that is one of our favorite new ones that we just got in. And I can't wait to tell you about our story in a little bit. Now, After the adoption, throughout the year, we do various events with these kids because we engage them constantly to try and show them what an adult relationship should look like, because that was obviously taken from them. We do everything from Easter. We have 5 major events we do, but we do Easter, Halloween, Christmas, back to school, and into school parties for these kids. We just get them together and let them engage in group play. None of the kids talk about what they've gone through. It's really just like they get to get together and just become kids again. They're no longer this isolated child of abuse. They then see that there's 100 other kids around them that have all been through similar situations, and they just get to play. In addition to that, we do birthday rides where, especially during 2020, this became a very common thing, where we did birthday rides and little stops instead of actual big birthday parties. We take them bowling. We've been to football games. The bottom right picture is actually something new that we did this last year. We took all of our girls ages 8 through 17 and put them through a self-defense class to where they got to learn how to physically defend themselves from individuals their size and bigger. And some of these girls, if they were interested, actually got to continue on a fully sponsored self-defense class that they go to on a weekly basis from Eagles Flight Advocacy and Outreach. So we have now begun teaching our girls how to defend themselves against perpetrators so that they can be better prepared. The top right was a favorite picture of mine. We made quite an impact at a local high school football game here, where we showed up and we parked right next to the bus where our LG got off the bus, and she was very happy to see us, and we made a few waves in that football game. It was fun, but she felt entirely safe with us just being at the football game. The whole reason we're at the football game is because she was worried about her perpetrator knew she had a football game there, and she didn't want him to come and see her and she would feel unsafe. So we showed up to make sure she felt safe. On the left side, there's a bowling picture. We engage in what we call group therapy or mentorship. I apologize. Mentorship programs where we take these kids out on a smaller group with 4 or 5 members, and the parents sometimes will come, and the siblings, and we just engage them in playing, whether it's taking for ice cream, we'll do bowling, whatever that kid wants to do in that moment. We just try to engage them so that they can have control once again of their situation and not feel like they've lost control. And one of my favorite things to talk about that we give the kids, because I talked about the events, I talked about the ride, and I've talked about the events, but I got to talk about our bear. Oh, I love our bear. And I know it's a stuffed bear. We've used the same one in San Antonio. Other chapters in the area use different stuffed animals than us. They do different animals, different styles. We've used the same bear for about 13 years now. And this bear is the last gift we give the child. And what we tell the child is this, and before COVID, we would all hug this bear. And it was actually at the 2019 Voices for Children conference that we had the audience hug a bear that would go to a child with us, which was incredible. So we give this child this bear, and since COVID, we had to come up with a new way of trying to show the love that this bear has had in him. So we came up with something different this year, and we've now employed it as part of our standard process. So in this middle picture you see here, there's an individual named Honey. She's one of our female patch members who just earned her back patch recently. All members serve 1 year as a prospective member, where their job is to learn how to work with kids, learn about our organization, and have to prove to us that they have the integrity, valor, and honor behind them to become part of our organization, because we work with the most vulnerable of society. You have to be an upstanding person. You can't be of questionable moral character. You have to have training that we require. And so if you look at the bottom of that picture, you see she's got a little teddy bear hanging from her. That's actually hanging from her purse that she's got tucked around her. But that teddy bear is the same bear that she gave to her first family. Every prospective member that we bring into our organization is required to carry a bear before they can become a patch member. And they carry that bear for at least 6 months or more. And they have to care for it, wash it. They have to make sure it stays safe, but they have to have it on them at all times. And what's so important about that, and some of these pictures are instances where this bear has gone places and done things, is when they become a guardian for their first family. And all that means is that they are now responsible for keeping up with a particular family and reporting back to the organization how the family's doing. And so Honey had to carry this bear, and she carried Cut for about 8 months before she got her first family. And when she got to give that bear to that family, she was able to genuinely tell this family, I've cared for this bear like I would care for you. I will protect you. I will take care of you, and I'll always be there for you. And so that bear being given over to the child, now the child has that instinctive connection with an adult who is there for the honest intention of just genuinely protecting them and making them feel safe. And it is an incredibly special moment, and it is something I love seeing occurring. And so the bottom right picture is actually really interesting. We got that picture from a pilot on a plane. One of our members was on a flight and talked to the stewardess about what we do. And the stewardess went and talked to the co-pilot, and the co-pilot said, yeah, I would love to take a picture with the bear. And so we brought the bear up to the cockpit once they landed. He got a nice little picture. He's been to SeaWorld. He's played video games, bowling. There's a whole Instagram dedicated to Cut's adventures, where we just post pictures of members who take Cut and take him to various places, because kids live vicariously through other things sometimes. And this fuels the imagination for our young kids, where they can look and see, and we can say, Cut's been all these places. Well, it's become kind of common when a guardian hands over their bears, they hand over a photo album of all the places they've taken their own bear that they've now given them, so they can see the journeys that this bear has gone through. And now I've talked a lot about what we do, but my favorite part is talking about, I get the word out, our little guardians. So last year when we did this presentation, I talked to you about Tink. For those of you who remember, Tink was terribly afraid of the night. She slept with night lights on, hall lights, closet lights, I mean, every light possible on. And she gradually moved downward to where she had no need for a night light, and she wanted to give that night light to somebody else. I talked to you about her. I want to talk to you about Shadow Angel for a second. Shadow Angel is the one I mentioned earlier that went to court and was her impact statement. When we met Shadow Angel, you could not touch Shadow Angel. And by touch, I mean you can't even just come up to her and touch her on the shoulder, like say, hey, how are you? It was a no contact rule. Physical touch from a stranger, or even mom at times, would send her into a full panic, anxiety, PTSD flashback scenario where she was reliving her abuse, and her anxiety would flare up and she would just be terrified again. So we greeted her. We asked her how she wanted to be greeted, and she said a peace sign. So 75 members, as we're introducing ourselves, just greet her. Hi, I'm Tex, as a peace sign. It was 2 months in, at our back to into school event, we took all the kids to a trampoline park and decided, let's bounce around and play on the trampolines with them. And that was at that event that Shadow Angel came up and gave me a hug. Oh, shit. And so she gave me a hug, and I was the first person she hugged in the organization, and she was 16 years old at the time. And since then, in the past 2 years, Shadow Angel has blossomed. This girl has surpassed our expectations. She's been on Ken's 5 talking about child abuse. She's, instead of coming to our events and playing around and goofing with kids, she's working the events. In June, she turns 18 years old. And when she turns 18, she's joining our organization as an advocate. She's gone from victim to victor to advocate. She wants to make a difference in the lives of kids like GOC made a difference in the life of her. And she will tell you all day long that if not for GOC, she would not be here today or be the person she is. There's actually a letter, and I'm going to shamelessly plug our YouTube that we don't use much, but we have a YouTube link. It's at, I think it's Guardians of Children in San Antonio, or at GOCSATX. I'll have to get the link, but if you search us, you'll find it. But there's a letter she wrote talking about her experience in GOC. And we had a friend of ours read the letter that she wrote, and it talks about the impact GOC had in her life. But I've got 2 new kids I want to tell you about, since Ellie seemed to remember all my stories last time. Before I tell you about Purple Flame, I want to read you song lyrics. Every night I lie in bed. The brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be. A vision of the one I see. A million dreams, it's all it's going to take. A million dreams for the world we're going to make. We met Purple Flame very recently. She suffered abuse, faced abuse traumatically, just like all of our kids have. And in talking with her and trying to learn what she liked and what she enjoyed about life, and trying to figure out how to come up with her name and just get to know her. And we had a great time getting to know her and her sisters and her family. And we found out she likes to sing. And I used to be a professional singer. So I asked her, I said, well, every singer's got that one song that's their go-to song. What's yours? And she said, A Million Dreams by Pink. And it's based off the movie The Greatest Showman. with Hugh Jackman. And so I said, "Oh, that's awesome. So you sing that?" And Mom said, "Oh my gosh, she sings amazing. She's beautiful." And I'm thinking, okay, Mom, well, it's your daughter. Of course you're going to say that, right? I mean, no parent ever goes, "Yeah, they love that song, but they can't sing for a damn." Every parent totes on their child. So I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. You know, but no big deal. Sure, they sing great. And I asked her, I said, "Well, would you mind singing for us?" And she said yes. And I was actually surprised that she said yes, because we've only known her for 1 hour at this point. So Mom queued up a karaoke track of it and put it on her phone and just started playing it. And she started singing. And Mom wasn't lying. It was absolutely amazing. So much so that someone sitting just outside of the patio we were at came around the corner because they thought it was the radio. And they looked and they saw her and they just stopped dead in their tracks and they just listened. And we didn't even pay attention to know she was there. And when Purple Flame finished the whole song, she started clapping. And then we all looked at her like, "Oh, who are you?" And she expressed that that was you. I thought it was the radio. Now, what's so cool is when we realized what this song means, what's this song talking about, and why it's her favorite song. We realized this song applies to every one of our kids that we work with. Every night I lie in bed. The brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams, it's all it's going to take. A million dreams for the world we're going to make. Every kid lays at night dreaming of a world that's different than the abuse that they're sitting in, than the abuse that they're facing. And Purple Flame was no exception. Not only did she sing it there at our first meeting where she was only with 5 of us, but she sang it in front of all of our members when we did her adoption, which was about 75 people. And she lit up. It was really actually kind of like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Beat any concert by far and wide. She was a little nervous when she started, but then she closed her eyes and she started imagining what it was she was dreaming about. And you could tell she transitioned from that scared to I'm confident, I'm brave, I'm victorious. Amy Rose. Amy Rose is a character. Oh my gosh, she's funny. Amy Rose is on the spectrum for autism. She has zero filter. We all know that adult that has zero filter that we all go, "Why did you say that?" Amy Rose is like that. She speaks just with open honesty. When we did her adoption, we took her statements from that day and came up with what we call the Amy Rose quotes. And we found that in discussing and thinking about what she said, that every child we meet is thinking these things. Her quotes: "This is the best day ever. Are y'all really going to protect me? Are y'all really my best friends? I love you guys." And we realized every kid was thinking these things, but only in their head, not speaking them. Amy Rose doesn't have that filter to stop it, so she just came right out and said it. And so since then, we've applied the method that every time we do an adoption or we meet a child, we make sure we answer those questions. Yes, we're here to protect you. Yes, we're going to be your friends. We love you too. And yes, we're here for you, and this is the best day ever. Gypsy. We met Gypsy and started talking with her, and the first thing Gypsy invited us to after her adoption was her birthday party. And of course we're going to go because the kid invited us. So we went to her birthday party, about 35 of us, and we get to the birthday party and we realize we're the only people at the birthday party. We're it. No other family. One grandpa, and that's it. Nobody else. And I looked at Mom and I said, "Mom, is anybody else coming?" And she said, "Well, before her abuse, she would have 30, 40 family members coming to her birthday parties. But after she came out about the abuse, they all believed him and not her. And so they think she's lying. And so now they don't want to come to anything of hers." And it was at that moment we all realized that we were literally her new family. And we have yet to miss one birthday party with her. Any school event she invites us to, we go to. We show her that we're here in mass for you. And Gypsy loves to sit back and watch people. She's not a talker. She's very, very quiet, very reserved. She just likes to sit and watch large groups of people talk and engage in conversation. That's what she enjoys. So whenever we go visit Gypsy, we always take a bunch of people with us, and we make sure everyone's having a good time. And Gypsy just sits there perfectly happy with this cute little smirk on her face that like she's enjoying herself. But it struck me that how many people sided away from her. How many people didn't believe a child? And these are just 5 of many of our kids that we work with, who all get to choose their own names. We never choose a name for them. They all get to pick their own name. Black Skull, Fight Club, yes, referencing the movie. I think one of my favorites is Nightmare. Was a dainty little girl who we asked why she picked Nightmare, and she said, because he was my nightmare and I want to be his. And we're genuinely honored to work with these kids. And if you know someone who is experiencing abuse or experiencing a situation where they could use our assistance, please, please reach out to me. This is our contact information. You can reach us at any of these forms of communication. We'd love to work with any of the children that you have, or that any situations that you have. We're just an open group of people. We don't do this we don't get paid. We're all volunteers, and we just love to do this. So